Half a dozen states in the Midwest are cleaning up this morning after a rare storm with 100-mile-an-hour winds,
leaving 1 million people without power.
And the National Weather Service has confirmed that this is a derecho,
which is a windstorm that has the wind speeds of a hurricane.
Winds topping 100 miles an hour.
You can see the dark skies there forming in the distance.
Every dot you see on the map is the type that takes down trees and power lines. That's a lot.
So if you follow us on social media, you know we had a really big storm. It was 190 to 130 mile per hour straight winds, and they lasted for a couple hours. It's basically like they described it as an inland hurricane, just these constant hard winds for hours and hours here.
Jesse and I were talking in the assembly room when we came out, realized how dark it was. And I opened the door and realized, oh no, this is not good.
I had actually left here shortly before the storm hit to go to a funeral at our church, which is on the north side of town. And then we had a lot of people to get out of our church parking lot, which is right on the main highway through town. And there was power poles on both sides of our church entrance laying across the highway. I tried to leave the first time and I couldn't, because I couldn't get anywhere. So I came back and then tried again, and I ended up borrowing a bike and riding a bike home.
I left my car at the shop and I walked home because there was trees where there weren't supposed to be trees. So it was an interesting walk home. There was a lot of trees down and cars everywhere trying to get places.
The tornado sirens went off and Jeremy and I were talking, and we just thought nothing of it, because if you live in the Midwest, you hear tornado sirens all the time, and it could be for a storm that's 2 counties away. Well, within 10 minutes of that, it took nothing. The rain was coming down and it was whipping sideways. I mean, it was raining literally sideways. We said, well, we gotta go. Jeremy had a kid at home, I had the kids at home, and we had to get to them. We didn't know kind of at the time what this storm was or what it was going to be.
There's a assisted living residence thing right by our church, and there's a sidewalk that connects our two. So people literally drove down the sidewalk to get out of the church and to try and find their way back home.
There's a highway right off the shop. Got onto that highway and realized ahead of me there were some trees on the road. And so I turned down another road just before where I wanted to. Got halfway down that road, and that was the first time where my initial thought was, wow, this must have been a bad storm. There's trees everywhere. And then I realized, no, this is a bad storm and I'm in it.
I was driving my truck and I got in a few blocks and trees were literally falling like dominoes. I mean, I've never seen such a thing. I mean, literally fall. I mean, it was amazing how fast they were falling. Meanwhile, the rain was still coming sideways, so I couldn't see. And the only thing I knew was that I had to get to the kids. It's kind of all I kept saying in my head. So I drove a few blocks, there was trees in the road. Luckily I have a pretty good sized truck, and I couldn't see how big the tree was. I just knew I had to kind of take a gamble because I couldn't sit there. So I went pretty quick and we kind of ran over some of the trees. I was able to hop the curb a time or two. I was able to just go through the trees a time or two. I got a couple blocks from my house and a big tree fell right in front of me, and a pretty big part of it hit my truck. So it fell part on my truck, part on the road, and I knew that I was not getting past that one. It was just too big. So I threw my truck in reverse, and as I was backing up, another tree fell and fell behind me, so I was kind of trapped. I was able to swerve and back up and back over that tree also, and I got back to Main Street, which is I think about 2 blocks away from my house now, but the road's blocked, the only road that goes there. So I decided to go through the park. It's a big, old city park. Bunch of 100-year-old trees, probably 60 plus feet tall. They're massive. They're so big you just don't think they can fall. I'm driving through that park. I can't see, and it was raining so hard that I couldn't see, or else I would have drove through there rather quickly just to get out of there. I couldn't see. I couldn't tell if I was on the road or off the road or where I was going. And so I had a moment there of wondering if I was gonna get out of the park.
When I got to the highway, I realized it was blocked to the right of me and to the left of me, so the only other thing I could do is really go back to the shop. So I decided I better just get back. And I crossed the highway, and not long after I crossed the highway, that road was blocked. And at that point, I knew all I really could do was try to get into somebody's house. And so I pulled into a driveway. As I was sitting there, it just dawned on me there's really no way to get out of my car. It would be not safe at all. There's so much stuff blowing around. Plus, at some points, you just really wondered, I don't know if I'd even be standing. I think I'd get blown over pretty easy. So I basically rode the whole storm out in my car. And I thought, how can wind blow this hard for that long? And I didn't think it was ever going to end. So I just reclined my seat and laid back, hoping that nothing would break through. It was definitely one of the scariest moments of my life sitting in that car. The Bible says pray without ceasing, and that's what I did. Eventually it calmed down enough that I decided I was going to make a run for it. I had noticed there was a slight gap in the one spot I thought was blocked, and so I just kind of drove through it and pushed through the debris and zigzagged my way home and got all the way to about a block away and stopped. So I just started running and ran home, and my daughter met me at the door and said, I'm fine, house is fine.
I did get in the house. The boys got to the basement. Everyone was fine. We have a 2-story home, so some of our siding got ripped up a little bit. Our truck got beat up quite a bit, and our camper got beat up quite a bit. But given the state of the community, I feel like we fared pretty well. We were pretty blessed in that aspect.
My home got away pretty well compared to some of the ones in the neighborhood. We're gonna need a new roof. Our shingles are kind of tore up. And we have a tree that's kind of laying on top of our garage. Our trampoline was toast. It kind of got caught on the fire hydrant and ripped a hole in it, and it's bent. And most of our trees will have to be cut down, but we're pretty lucky. Our neighbors behind us had 2 very large trees end up in their house, so we got away pretty lucky.
Our house itself was pretty good. A few shingles that were, like flipped up and stuff. We haven't gotten up to the roof to completely look, but we've already called the insurance adjuster. We're gonna have them look at it just because of the hail and everything else. Our yard mainly had shingles, some branches, but everyone around us, quite a bit of tree damage.
As far as the shop goes, we didn't really have much damage here. We did get some water intrusion. It was blowing so hard it kind of was coming up under our garage doors and our loading dock. It came about, maybe 15-ish feet into the shop, into the area where the tools and stuff are. We were without power for quite a while. We're on day 4 and our home still doesn't have power. We're running by generator there still. The shop just got power here within the last day or so. We got pretty well cleaned up, and Jesse came over and helped, and friends, and we've been out to other people's houses, and my parents live in town, so we had to clean up their yard. And
we've helped out neighbors and friends and church people. My husband's still doing that today and probably will tomorrow, and we probably will do some more this weekend just because there's so much damage everywhere. As far as the town goes and some of the other folks, they just weren't as lucky, unfortunately. We had a lot of trees come down, guys. I just don't know how to explain to you the number of power poles and trees that came down in this. So a lot of them went through roofs. There's a lot of shingle damage, there's a lot of roof damage, there's a lot of siding damage. Hundreds of cars are ruined. We spent the better part of the last 3 days, since my property is reasonably safe, myself and Jeremy, Marty and her husband, and a few other folks have been out. Hundreds of people, but that was just kind of our group of folks that went out, cutting trees and clearing lawns of folks that couldn't maybe get around so good themselves or needed the help or just had such a mess that it was just nice to lend a hand. And there's a lot of groups out doing that exact same thing. We're obviously by far not the only ones. And the city's kind of in cleanup mode now. What makes me feel good is, and what I love about a small town, is everyone comes together. And everybody is helping everybody, everybody's checking on everybody. My kids thought the other day that they needed to give the tree workers that were outside our house a box of Twinkies, so we took them Twinkies, and the guys were so excited. They had Twinkies, they were cheering from the bucket truck, and it's just neat to see our small town come together in times like this. 2020's been a heck of a year, it's no lie. Everybody knows that. This made it a little bit more interesting, but everybody's still working together for the most part and coming together to get our town back where it needs to be.
We talked to folks that have lived here for 50 plus years, and they say they've never seen something like this come through here. If you want to help, we would really appreciate it. Like I said, the assistance won't go to us here at Bannor Toys. Obviously, we fared fairly well, but if you want to help us help others, you can mail gift cards. The address here is 235 West 2nd Street, Madrid, Iowa, 50156. Any gift cards that we get, like Walmart, Target, Hy-Vee, things that are kind of local to the central Iowa area, will be passed out to folks. When the power went out for this long, obviously a lot of folks lost their perishable goods, all of their freezer and refrigerator and deep freeze foods and stuff like that. So helping them rebuild some of that. And then just folks that have lost their income, if their job is the roof's torn off where they work or where they live or anything like that, obviously they can use the assistance. So we will be sure to pass those out on behalf of our customers, and we're going to try and match some of that where we can too. You can also buy e-gift cards. You can email them to Stacey, STACEY, at bannortoys.com, and we'll do the same thing. We'll basically just print those out. We sure appreciate any of that.